Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in our series of I Built Them So You Don't Have to 2025. Today we're going to delve into a brand new champion for me, one I have not played around with, but one that has been built on my account, so I assume she's going to be pretty good, thanks HWZ. Today we're going to look at none other than the Sylvan Watcher, Dyana Gloompiercer. Gloompiercer, passive. This champion will ignore shield and strengthen buffs when attacking under an increased attack, veil, or perfect veil buff. Covert Blitz, attacks all enemies. Before attacking, places a 30% increased crit rate buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. If this attack kills an enemy, places a veil buff on all allies for 1 turn. Moonlight Ambuscade. Teams up with 2 random allies to attack a single enemy. The allies joining the attack will use their default skills. If the target is under a decreased defense debuff, these attacks will ignore 20% of the target's defense. Firefly Hatchet. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So Dyana Gloompiercer is a Sylvan Watcher epic attack void affinity champion, and she's looking pretty cracked out. First off, first look, she looks ridiculously good. I love it. I love the glowing eyes. She's got this badass look to her. Like she's almost like, maybe if we take a look, she might have some dark elf, a couple lineage back, a little something. She's looking a little angry, but she's still got the general look of the Sylvan Watchers. She is a nuker, so we did build her as a nuker. Let's take a look at her total stats here. Let me move to the... I gotta keep moving around. I don't know where it's best for me to be. We've got her at 6,632 attack, speed at 214, 344 crit capped crit damage, and a salty little accuracy of 304, which helps out. I don't have the greatest Sylvan Watcher accessories, but we do have a double attack. We did get a triple accuracy on a crit damage with... Let's... Oh, looks like somebody's got to do some farming. Looks like somebody's got to do some farming, and that somebody's me. We also have her in a double attack here with just a single speed, but does work pretty nicely overall. And we put her in my top gear. This is my gear normally reserved for Ethos, and it's probably my best overall attack gear without any... I mean, it's among the best anyway. There's a couple of pieces out there, but it's pretty strong. You can see we got her... She's going to do damage. We're going to, of course, put her beside Alika just to get a good comparison. Why don't we talk about her multipliers right now, though? No, let's go to... Scratch that. We'll talk about that when we do her skills. Let's talk about her masteries. Now, let me move out of the way so that I don't hide the masteries. This is kind of just a standard build. I've never used her. I've never taken her on a run. What you saw is the first time I saw her do any damage in this game. But I usually say if she's got debuff, let's just get that accuracy. This just helps me not have to worry about accuracy in the build, especially having a maxed out Great Hall. Obviously, for you guys, if you need that A1, then you're going to want to use her in a very specific nature that may require you to... it may require you to give her more or less of these damage modifiers, accuracy modifiers. The flip side, if you're not too worried about that, you can take her down the defense and get things like counter attack and those sort of things to help her be a little bit more survivable. On the offense side, crit rate, crit damage, ruthless ambush, helm smash are the big ones. We usually take them to bring it down. We usually take it down to Heart of Glory. You could arguably go for the Grim Resolve, whichever kind of makes sense for you. For example, if you're using an attack champion in an unkillable comp, Grim Resolve might be the better option. Flip side, if you're using them in a block damage, obviously the Heart of Glory is the much better. So just to eke out that little extra damage. So that's how we have her Masteries built. Now let's go over to her skills. I'll move back over here, and here's where we're going to talk about her multipliers. First of all, she has this very cheeky passive that ignores shield and strengthen buffs when she's attacking under an increased attack, veil, or perfect veil. So what that automatically tells me is you want a champion that can put on veil, perfect veil, or increased attack. She does have her own ability to do it with her A3, but wouldn't you want this before she attacks? So build yourself for success. If you have a veil or perfect veil champion, there you go. Otherwise, an increased attack champion will definitely do the job. Probably better because she is a damage-based champion. So just get some kind of good increased attack champion to go before her. Boost that. If you have a Duchess, then it makes perfect sense just to use her and make the best use of that. And that's where we go here. If it kills an enemy, she can place a veil buff for all allies for 1 turn. This is decent in that it helps your survivability in the mid game. I would say late game, end game, probably a little less critical. Remember, she's putting a veil on all allies. So it's not like she's hiding everyone but herself. And she's an attack-based champion, so you wouldn't want her to. So all that's really doing is giving you a 7.5% damage mitigation for 1 turn on your champions, which is nice, but I think there's a point at which that becomes more mid-game, less late-end game. Especially if you're bringing in a champion that does have Perfect Veil, then this is kind of a not as needed. But it can be definitely useful in very specific scenarios. Her A2, her A3, as far as an AoE, she is doing 3.75 times her attack, which is strong. It's not godlike. It's not an amazing damage, but it is decent, keeping in mind that you are improving her crit rate and her crit damage. I did not build her this way, but I strongly suggest that you get some kind of really good cadence on your team. It's a 3-turn cooldown, and you have a 2-turn with this. You can build her with with less crit rate. You can drop the crit rate by 30% and build her for even more damage. So keep that in mind. She's kind of like Whisper in that respect. Her and Whisper probably going to synergize pretty well, I suspect. Her A2, which has a 3-turn cooldown when booked and gives a little bit of extra damage. This is an ally attack. It's only a 2 ally, so gonna be okay. It's gonna be good in the arena, I think, but limited. So having the 2 allies does make a little bit less. I think this does give some credence that she might be able to be used in like Hydra or in any boss fights. She'll be pretty good. Getting those ally attacks, even though it's only 2, not 3 or 4 or all, it's still better than none. And because of if the target is under a decreased defense buff, these attacks will ignore 20% of the target's defense. That's a big deal. Again, you can make that happen. You bring in your decreased defense champion, and then you are able to make this a very strong skill. And then you bring in allies with very strong A1s. Alika is a perfect example. Phoenix. I think, geez, I might even just do that. We might stay tuned. It could just stay right there. As far as its actual multiplier, it won't have it because you got to go to her A1. Now this is attacks one enemy 2 times, and that's going to put the decreased defense, and it has a 30% or 20 to 25% chance of placing that. It's too bad it's not higher. I really wish, because her A2 and A1 are essentially both hitting with this ability, I really wish it was like a 35 to 40% chance. It is 2 times, so I guess you could argue it's 50% chance. I still would like it around 60 to 75, but beggars can't be choosers. We'll see how that works. As far as her multiplier, it's 1.85. Remember, it's per attack. So it's a decent, it's not the strongest out there, but it is decent. And keeping in mind that she's essentially bringing 2 other allies with her A2. So that is going to make that skill just overall a nice, strong skill. So why don't we find out how she plays out here? We're going to take her into damage testing, and then we'll probably take her into the arena, and we can talk about other areas that you might want to use her in our final thoughts. So let's head to the damage testing pavilion. I don't know where that is. next. All right, let's take into Dragon 10 hard to do some testing here. I know this is going to cost me energy, but it is what it is. I've given up trying to bring them into Doom Tower because there's no perfect wave in Doom Tower to do testing. So this is easier. They got nice lots of health. We'll be able to do it. Now, here's the first one. Keep in mind, I could bring in strength to do this, but the thing is that there's none of these will have shield and strength in. We'll do that in the arena. But let's do the AoE here, see what kind of damage she can get. 128, 108, those sort of. Okay. Let's see what she's going to get. So I would say a little bit better. She's got better gear. She's got lower multipliers, but she gets that increased crit damage. Now keep in mind, she's not even fully optimized. I could have built her with 30% less crit rate, which would have given her even more potential damage that I could have built around. So I would say decent damage. It's not crazy. It's not right home to Santa and say all I want for Christmas is her. But that is reasonable damage. If we end the battle, we'll see what the total comparables were. 498, 384. So yeah, definite increase in the damages between the two. Now let's go in again and we'll check the ally attack. And this is really where the shine will be, is not so much her damage, but Alika's. Actually, let's do the A1s first. So she's going to hit for 54, 53. She's going to hit for 118. So, and keep in mind, there's a 50% chance she hits twice. So obviously, no comparison, as nobody has on their A1. I would even say, is there a legendary that has a comparable? Definitely there's no epic that has as much damage as Alika when she's got that 50% chance to do it twice. That was 118 with a chance to do another 118. Whereas we got double 50s. It's it's 100. So they're close, but keep in mind every second turn on average, Alika's going to do over double her damage. Now, and also keep in mind we're talking about better gear, better stats on her. But you know what? Comparable. I do like it. I think it's enough. Now let's see her A2 here. Now this is going to team up with 2 random allies, which of course is both of these, and we'll see whether they can just take one down with the boom boom. Big hits. Took her down pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to use her in an area. The damage it's not blowaway damage, but it's not terrible damage either. She's not. If you're looking for that one nuker to replace a legendary, I don't think this is it. But her kit, the synergy her kit can give herself in a battle as opposed to just damage testing, I think that's really where it's at. Especially when we've got this here. If the target's under decreased defense, it ignores 20% of the target's defense. She's potentially ignoring 25%. Plus her gear, you can almost be ignoring 100% defense, making it a really strong hit. So let's take them into the arena, and we'll see what we can do. I'm really curious here. That team is not that team's hard, but just for this setup. So we're going to put ourselves in a successful opportunity here. We're going to give her the extra. So again, we now have ignores, shield, and strengthen, which this team will definitely have at certain points. This here we're going to be able to use. It's not going to put a veil on everyone if we kill someone, but that's fine. And we have the ally attack. So because I see some stone skin, let's start with this. And we got the one champion we definitely wanted out of there. We can sleep. That was some pretty good damage. We still have a couple stone skin. We'll see if we can lock them out a turn. They resisted. That's fine. She doesn't have much. So we'll let them. So we just need to get them through that stone skin. In this case, they're not going to get it. But here we can team up with a couple champions. And boom. She got that extra attack. Easy hit. And then we just got to take care of our boy. Oh yeah, I don't want to do that. Not through stone skin. Although I probably could have. We'll make sure we don't get frozen here. She laid that decreased attack, so, or the decreased defense, which is interesting because that she can probably one shot at this point. Yeah. So one of the things is that decreased defense is part of that ally attack, ignoring 20% defense. So she can actually place that pretty nicely, right? Let's see again. We did get it, so again, it's looking pretty good. And we can finish it up right here and call it a day. So, I mean, this you have to synergize, but I don't. All right, we're gonna try this now. We're gonna take her to the arena and see if we can get some use out of her. It's not gonna be easy, just because Gold 5. There's so many sweaty legendaries out there. Obviously, a champion like this, pair back. Think of yourself in the mid-late game when you don't quite have such sweaty opponents. That said, this might be a good opportunity for us because they're going with defense first. We have tons of different ignore defense opportunities. We've put all these champions in every opportunity to succeed. So let's see what happens here. I think we just want to go right after him as soon as we can. Boom, done. It's exactly what we wanted. There's the worst case scenario. She's going to take 2 allies with her. Worst case scenario, she has the potential of putting someone to sleep in this scenario. Best case, she's bringing Phoenix and Alika, which have some major damage. So I don't know if I have Lockout. He doesn't have Stone Skin. We'll try to lock him out. We'll see what we can get. Nah, I'll resist it. That was pretty expected. But notice how because we have Stone Skin on Phoenix, he's still alive. We have good survivability here. We're gonna try to. I mean, we did. Oh, because he didn't have the buff. That's fine. Okay, we resisted that. Now she can put her own stuff on. Puts him under a veil, which is nice. Now she's gonna take a turn. This is actually a really great scenario. If there was a champion going, Siffi's probably our most survivable champion, so that's a good look. Now, even though she's sleeping, we know that hits really hard. We're gonna take that. We might as well just boost it up so we can finish it off, and there we go. So that's the scenario where she's gonna be useful. So you're gonna be able to use her. Final thoughts on Dyana. She is a compelling and interesting champion of the Sylvan Watchers. She is not an endgame champion. She is not someone that I think you're going to activate in PvP to fight the very highest levels. Though I suspect if you were to have 3 really strong champions, she can support that group of champions and add a significant amount of damage herself with both her ally attack and her A3. I also see her where we didn't take her is very good help until you finally set those teams for things like Hydra, Clan Boss, and the like. The fact that she can do an ally attack, self-buff, you can put her with enough resistance so that she can be the champion, the target for mischief, and do significant damage. She has an aura that's 20% attack in all battles. That's very strong for an epic. I love a lot about her kit. I think it synergizes well. I think you can land this decreased defense reasonably, which then of course helps you here because you if they're under a decreased defense, they'll ignore 20% of the target's defense. Ironically, if you can ignore that much defense, you may not need the decreased defense, but I digress. You can make this work. You can make this work with her own kit, or you can make this work by bringing in champions with her that would synergize very well. Everything about this I like. I feel like her multipliers are the one thing that hold her back from being a true endgame epic solution. There's not a lot of them out there. Let's face it, the more champions they add, the mythicals, the blessings, the everything, right? That just makes it harder and harder for epics to be relevant in the end game. You look at the champions that I have in arena to fight against, and there's nothing. There's no epics. So it's very difficult. But I was impressed with how she was able to handle some of those Gold 5 teams with her A3 damage. The extra damage she can bring in, plus the increased attack that she can get from other champions, really did solidify. Plus her ally attack in situations was useful to bring someone like Phoenix in and Alika and do some really powerhouse A1s. Again, in the end game with some of these top champions, with Stone Skin, with all the different ways that you can circumvent it, it is harder to bring that in. But situationally, she might help. Overall, I'm really impressed with the champion. I think she fits into the niche of what epics are. They're great in the early through to late game. There's a point where they fall off, but you can still find use for them in the end game. And frankly, with over 1,000 champions, I don't know if we can really ask for more than this sort of champion. There are very few champions that are at the level of Ugo and Geomancer that are end game champions as well as progression champions. You can't make every epic that. You can't make 99% of epics that, or else it's no longer, what's the point of even building legendaries, right? That makes no sense from a game perspective, from a development, and certainly not from a playing perspective. But overall, I think this is a great champion and a great addition to a Sylvan Watcher team that likely will be on your Faction Wars team. I can't see why not, unless you're fully whaled out with a bevy of great legendary champions. And quite honestly, if you're doing things like Faction Wars and you need some damage to make it work, she's going to be, I mean, anecdotally, subjectively, better than bringing Emic. Well, maybe not Emic, sorry. Better than bringing Alil. Better than bringing Lady of Ireth. There are champions that she's going to do better for you than even the legendaries. There's not a whole lot of damage in this mid-tier. There's some situational damage. There's some if X, Y, and Z damage, but not true damage. And when you're in that mid-game and you're pushing into the late game for the Faction Wars, you just need damage. And that's where champions like Lockwayne and, of course, absolutely, like Dyana, are going to make your team better. Ruella is another good example. Dithea is another good example. You have some really good epics in the Sylvan Watchers that are going to help you. And I think she fits beautifully in that group. Overall, I think she's a strong build for just about anyone in this game until you've hit the very latest plateaus of endgame. Frankly, you might have a little fun building her anyway if you are an endgame player. That's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for getting this far. I appreciate you for watching these videos. For more videos, please consider liking, subscribing, and notifying so that you know when we put out new videos on the I Built Them series or the free-to-play or anything else I might do in the future. Also, a little shout out to the other channels I have. I have Mad Capper Mobile Gaming, which used to be my Watcher of Realms channel, has expanded. It's going to be Watcher of Realms, but it also will feature stuff from, say, King Arthur and or Godforge when Godforge is finally released to beta into my grubby little hands. Well, actually big hands, but I digress. So please consider subbing that. It'll be down in, a link will be down in the description down below, as well as Amanda and I's travel channel. A&R Travels is our documentation, and we're doing some, we do some podcast style stuff. We will be filming our March vacation on Wonder of the Seas, and that's going to be on there. So if you want a different perspective, a different look, a non-gaming look, a travel blog on cruising, Disney, and everything in between, consider subscribing there. It really help me out if you guys would join in over there, get me some subs so we can get that channel rolling. Finally, I want to thank you for watching. Please be kind, be safe. We'll see you in the next video.